Offers a block. The blitz comes from the other side. Jaquel Jackson.
And now again, Jaquel Jackson.
You're listening to Believe in Colts with co-hosts Lawrence Owen and DeQuell Jackson, bringing you the latest and greatest about the shoe.
Brady, middle, intercepted by DeQuell Jackson. Play fake, Bryant, intercepted, picked off at the 5, touchdown DeQuell Jackson.
What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Lawrence Owen, back with Believe in Colts. DeQuell Jackson on vacation, so it's just you and I today. But you know what? We have a ton to go over. A ton to go over. All right. First off, the Colts Christmas Day. What is there more to say? All right. The Colts win again on prime time. Right? Holy cow. And found a way to do it with so many people hurt. So many people were hurt. They started off their starting interior offensive lineman out for the game. Mark Glowinski, and Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly, all three done. Then Eric Fisher goes out with a knee injury. Guess who comes in? Julian Davenport. Then, I think it was Chris Reed, went out with another injury, an ankle, I think. What? Are you kidding me? Oh, that's not good. Jonathan Taylor did end up having just over 100 yards on the day against this horrible Cardinals run D. But if you take away the very first run of the game, and it's all about this, circumstances, right? Jonathan Taylor's first offensive play by the Colts, he took off with that ball right away and picked up like 63 yards. Blam, gone, right? Or something like it. It was a big run. I don't think it was 63. I think it was like 40 something. But either way, okay? Big run for Jonathan Taylor. After that, the Cardinals was able to stop Jonathan Taylor. Not necessarily stop him. They were able to get penetration beyond the line of scrimmage and get to Jonathan Taylor before he even got to the line of scrimmage. Jonathan Taylor used everything he had just to get to the line of scrimmage and more. All right, because he only averaged 3.5 yards a carry the rest of the game. Because our offensive line was so beat up. But Lawrence, if that's the case, how in the world did the Colts end up beating, a 10-win plus Arizona Cardinals team? This is Carson Wentz, my guy. Carson Wentz put the team on his back, went 18 of 28, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. Wow. And some of those passes were dimes, right? He had a nice little pass to Mo Alley Cox on a little drag route. Mo caught it. The linebacker wasn't able to bring him down. And he took off for some yards. Late in the game, the throw to Des Patman in the back of the end zone was a beauty. Couple throws of T.Y. Hilton in this game. Absolute gorgeous. Who doesn't like a little extra money? Well, if you're into gambling, BetOnline remains your number one spot for all your basketball, football, baseball, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for this season and the next. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BLEAV50, to receive your bonus. Bet online, where the game starts. Now, I want to talk to you now, since the Colts now have won. What, they've been on a roll, right? I mean, they've won a few now in a row with them just out there beating everybody. They've won 3 straight. They beat the Texans 31-0. They beat the Patriots 27-17, and now they just beat the Cardinals 22-16. This is the same Indianapolis Colts team that started the year 0-3. Percentage-wise, only one team since 2002, I think it was, has made it to the playoffs after starting 0-3. The Colts technically had a 2.6% chance of making the playoffs. And then they've been on a tear. Let's talk about that, all right? After they start 0-3 and they drop to the Seahawks, the Rams, the Titans, then they go out, they go to Miami and just hand them a loss, 27-17. Then they go to the Ravens, lose in overtime. Remember that. That's a big deal. Then they host the Texans, beat them 31-3. They go to Niners in a nasty game and just destroy them, 30-18. Then they lose in overtime again to the Titans by a field goal. Then they host the Jets, blow them clean out the water, right? Then they hosted the Jaguars, defeated them. They went to Buffalo, blew them out of the water. Then they hosted the Super Bowl champions, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they tied the game up with 3 minutes left. Just left too much time on the board for Tom Brady. Tom Brady was able to drive the field like Tom Brady does and win the game late in the fourth quarter. Then they then they went to Texas, played the Texans, and dropped a goose egg on them, 31-0. They beat the Texans this year by a total score of 62-3. What? Between both games. That's just stupid. Okay. Then they host the New England Patriots, biggest game of the year for the Colts, obviously, and just out-muscled them the entire game, beating them 27-17. And to be fair, that game wasn't even that close, in my opinion. Then they go to the Arizona Cardinals, as I said, and they had everybody hurt. I already talked about what was going on the offensive line. Well, guess what? They didn't have Zach Pascal either. Jack Doyle goes out in the game, and that's a monster loss. We didn't have Corey Willis. We didn't have Rocky Sin. We didn't have Darius Leonard. Sendejo was out with a concussion. We were out there with 4 stringers playing on the defense. We had 5th stringers playing on the offense. And we beat the Arizona Cardinals. The Colts only have 2 games left this season, the Raiders and the Jaguars. Both very winnable, especially if this new CDC COVID thing happens, where the CDC just changed up quarantine measures for unvaccinated people for quarantine only 5 days rather than 10. If the NFL adopts that this week, there's a good chance the Indianapolis Colts could have a bunch of their players back for the Raiders game this Sunday at 1 o'clock. Let's talk about primetime games. The Indianapolis Colts over the last, 5 years have been lucky to get any primetime game. Any. And they haven't been very successful in primetime games. This year, the Colts had 5 primetime games, and they are 4-1 in primetime. The Colts, over the last few years, have not gotten much attention. They have not gotten much respect. Why is that? They're a small market team. They don't get primetime games. They've gotten their primetime games this year, and guess what? They have won on those. They have looked good on those primetime games, and now the Indianapolis Colts are getting respect. Lawrence, what kind of respect are we talking about here? Well, let me tell you something. The Indianapolis Colts are now, they just dropped the NFL.com just dropped their power rankings, right? For week 17. They dropped the week 17 power rankings, and the Colts are fifth in the power rankings. Who's around them? Well, let's talk about it. They're sandwiched between teams that are 11-4. Dallas is 11-4 at ranked 6th. Fifth is Tampa Bay. They're 11-4. What? They're earning respect because they're playing well on prime time. Back-to-back 8 o'clock games on Saturdays, and they've won both. The New England Patriots were on a tear. They had like a 7-game win streak. And then a week and a half ago, the Colts said, no, you can't have that no more. Ended that win streak. Buffalo was on a high when they played them a few weeks ago. I believe since the Colts played Buffalo, they're what? 1-3? Right? I'm pretty sure they just beat New England. And now the Cardinals were on a slide before the Colts played them. But, I mean, they still had some players out there. I mean, they still had some players. They still had Christian Kirk. They still had Chase Edmonds. They still had Zach Ertz. They still had the majority of their defense. And the Colts showed up on prime time, way shorthanded, and won. And because they're performing well on prime time, they're getting the respect. Now, a lot of people want to run out there and say, well, I don't like the idea of the Colts, getting the respect because I want to be underdogs. Let me tell you something. The only people that are saying that were fans. Fans think that, You look at it and go, well, they're not getting, people don't know who you are. I promise you, teams in the NFL, they see other teams. They do their research. They know what kind of teams they are, okay? Right now, there's still this big narrative, even after Carson Wentz put the team on his shoulder against the Arizona Cardinals and won that game. There's still that narrative. Well, Wentz you can't trust Wentz to, put the game on his shoulders and win a game. Now that he just did it, you know what the new narrative is? Well, Wentz has only had one completion in the playoffs. You can't trust him in the playoffs. There's only one quarterback right now in the NFL, in the AFC, that has real success in the playoffs. That's Patrick Mahomes. That's Patrick Mahomes. Everybody else, you know what Josh Allen looks like. That's kind of a mar on him in the playoffs. I mean, the big knock on Lamar Jackson is he can't do it in the playoffs. Matt Jones, he's never even seen the playoffs, right? Justin Herbert, what? Joe Burrow, what? Right? The Carson Wentz is in a very similar boat, but the difference is the Colts have a run game, and when they're healthy, they got that offensive line, which is nasty. They got a great defense. They got a special teams that can do all sorts of things, including block punts and return them for touchdowns. This is a team where Carson Wentz doesn't have to do a lot, so that when he does need to, he can perform well. And that's why I think that this is a Colts team that could legitimately make a big run in the playoffs. They are ranked 5th in power rankings for a reason. But the biggest reason the Colts are ranked 5th in the power rankings, obviously Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he's got 297 rushing attempts this year. Already 2 games left. Now, it's a 17-week season. But he's got 17 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, 1,626 yards on the ground, 5.5 yards per carry. What? Are you kidding me? He's catching 80% of his passes, right? 87% of his passes. He currently, right now, I'm sorry, no, he's catching 80% of his passes. Still good for a running back. He needs 48 yards to break 2,000 scrimmage yards. 48. That's it. 48. What? He needs 374 yards to break 2,000 rushing. Probably won't do that unless he has a really, really big game against either the Jaguars or the Raiders. It's possible. But, we still have yet to see. But, I mean, that's the Colts MVP candidate, right? That's the Indianapolis Colts MVP candidate. What about Carson Wentz? What has Carson Wentz showed us this year? I mean, really? The narrative was he was broken because in Philly, he had a 57% completion percentage. Ew. He had a 3.7 touchdown percentage. Ew. Heck, his interception percentage was almost as bad as his touchdown, 3.4. Ew. 2,600 yards. Sacked 50 times in like 12 games. Now, let's go to this year. What does Indy need? What's Carson Wentz showing now? Almost a 63% completion percentage, over 3,200 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's a 5.4% touchdown percentage as opposed to a 1.3 interception ratio. What? He has the 6th best QBR in the NFL, and he's only been sacked 25 times. 25 times. Holy crap. That's pretty impressive, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty impressive. Anytime you have a sack percentage of 5.2, that's like 1 in every 20 dropbacks. Wow. That's pretty darn impressive. Now, can he take that into the playoffs? We have yet to see if that could happen or not. I get it. But it very legitimately could. Especially if the Colts stay healthy and continue to play the way they've been playing. Really excited about the game coming up because of the protocols that we already talked about, stuff like that. But, right now, the Colts are on a roll. Okay? They are on a roll since starting 0-3. Since starting 0-3, they're 9-3. I mean, what more can you ask for? They have been rolling. We have a little bit of worrisome, will some of these guys come back from the COVID situation? What about the injuries, right? Jack Doyle went out the last game. He's huge in the passing game and the running game and the, not just going out for passes, but blocking in the passing game. Eric Fisher. We need Eric Fisher out there at left tackle. I don't care. All right. A lot of you want to talk about Eric Fisher. There's a huge drop-off between him and the next guy. All right. Huge drop-off. What about, other guy? Paris Campbell. He's scheduled to come back. There's rumors he might be coming back for the Raiders game. That would be a huge bonus for this Indianapolis Colts to have that kind of a deep threat. And if he could come back, that would be absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. Fantastic. But that's just a bonus because the Colts have played without him since, I think, week 5, week 6, something like that. But still, every little bit helps. What about, Kari Willis, right? Andrew Sendejo, he had that concussion. He might be back sooner than later. You'll need him against Josh Jacobs because he's a baller, right? We got guys that need to come back to get ready for the playoffs. I get it. The Colts have yet to even clinch a playoff spot. If they win this weekend, they're in. If they don't, there's still a chance they could be in with some losses. Because all they need is one win, and they're guaranteed in over the next 2 weeks. They have like an 86% chance to make the playoffs right now. Right now. I get it, though. 1-0 mentality. Keep walking in, playing their butts off. And today, and I'll tell you what about this locker room? What about this locker room and the leadership that this locker room is showing? To start off 0-3 and have a chance to make it into the playoffs, and not only just make the playoffs, but be one of the scariest teams, if not the scariest team, walking in. Because no one wants to play the Indianapolis Colts. No one wants to play a team who has track speed and could burn you in a dome. And yet at the same time, out in the weather and the elements, they could dominate you. Just out physical you. There's not a place on earth the Indianapolis Colts can't walk into and play their brand of football. And that's why this team is so dangerous right now. So dangerous. Guys, I want to thank everybody that have spent the last 22, 23 minutes sitting here with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, go check this out. After you hit the like and subscribe, go check us out on our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you listen to this on the podcast, wherever it is, whether it's Stitcher or Spotify or iTunes or whatever, make sure you download, go check out other ones, and then go to the YouTube, check that out as well. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen on behalf of DeQuell Jackson. This was Believe in Colts, brought to you by Bet Online. And as usual, go Colts.